I have with me Raj Chudgar. He's a principal at SunGard Consulting Services. Raj, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Raj, ERCOT, operator of much of the Texas electrical grid, launched the nodal energy market this month.
Mm-hmm.
This is a far departure from the traditional zonal market. What is the difference and why did Texas do it?
Good question. So a lot of markets, energy markets and particularly power markets, start off in what's called a traditional zonal market. A zonal market is where all the prices are pancaked together in a zone. What ERCOT did back with Senate Bill 7, which was the advent of deregulation here in Texas, ERCOT, or in the Senate Bill 7, it stated that once ERCOT hit a certain level of congestion, it would start working on new rules to essentially go to a nodal market. Nodal market is essentially taking those pancakes and making them more granular. So you get more granular pricing signals at different places, and with additional pricing signals, you're able to better tell where there's congestion, i.e. where there's either high pockets of load or too much generation, and what the causation of that congestion is. So most markets eventually gravitate towards a nodal market stream because from an economic basis standpoint, it provides a lot more pricing transparency to all the different market participants that are either producing or consuming power.
What effect will transition to a nodal energy market have on the state's data center sector?
Yeah, so with data centers in general are what are considered high load factor consumers of power. What I mean high load factor essentially means that traditionally they have a very high consumption at a very constant rate or fairly constant rate. In ERCOT lingo, this is called a high load factor consumer. High load factor consumers are interesting because just traditionally as a high load factor consumer, the nodal market doesn't really have much of a change just as a data center. However, with new nodal pricing arriving and some of the new additional risks that are involved with nodal, i.e. more volatility in pricing, there are additional markets where you can purchase power, if you will. There is the possibility for prices to become more transparent for data centers, which would eventually drive down the price for power consumption. So for as an example, let's say in a zonal market, the best price that you could get is maybe 8 cents or 9 cents per kWh. With nodal markets, traditionally you should see anywhere from a 10 to 20% reduction over time. Now, that is assuming that you are not necessarily in a congested area, which depends upon where you are located based on the pricing signals that are coming out from the market. So generally speaking, data centers should either have no impact or a positive impact. However, there are potential opportunities for data centers that are located in specific areas where there is unfavorable pricing signals, in which case they might have higher prices as well.
Where else in the U.S. or in the world is the nodal energy market structure used? And are you aware of any other states in the U.S. currently considering such a system?
Yeah, so nodal markets are generally the power market that's accepted worldwide. In the United States alone, almost every deregulated area has moved to a nodal market. California moved to a nodal market back in 2009. PJM moved to a nodal market back in early 2000s. New York ISO and New England ISO moved to nodal markets in mid-2000 range. So, and MISO started up as a deregulated nodal market in mid-2005 as well. So almost all U.S.-based markets and majority of world-based markets that are deregulated are eventually transitioned to a nodal-based market. ERCOT was one of the last markets in the U.S. to transition there. There are still a few other zonal-based markets like Australia, etc., some European markets as well, but though they're all planning to move towards a nodal-based market as well.
Texas is considered one of the most favorable, well-deregulated energy markets in the U.S. Is transition to a nodal system going to solidify that reputation further or have any effect on that?
Yeah, so some of the claims are that Texas deregulated market, especially on the retail side, is one of the biggest success stories from a retail deregulation in the world, and that's a true statement if you look at it statistically around how many customers are available to switch and how much switching that they've actually done between retail service providers. From a wholesale standpoint, I would sit here and say Texas was catching up with the rest of the world as far as wholesale deregulation, since we were on a if you will, a zonal market. A number of market participants, when they were trying to site generation or put in new transmission lines, would have difficulty determining what the pricing, what the ROI would be, i.e. what type of price recovery they would get, because there really was no price transparency. With the nodal market, long-term siting of plants, long-term siting of generation, et cetera, will become more transparent, which will then move the wholesale market deregulation into the, if you will, an equivalent status of a lot of the other markets in the United States.
Are there any limitations in any particular geographical area that may prevent that particular market from making transition to a nodal market?
So from a worldwide sense, not really. The preventions of going to a nodal market are generally the transparency aspect isn't there, so data transparency, you want to start up a market pretty quickly. You don't have time to structure the network model and determine where all the transformers and all the bus bars are located, et cetera, in which case then you traditionally start up a zonal market. A zonal market's easier to start up. There's a lot more socialization of pricing. There's a lot more socialization of cost, which means you hide a lot of things, a lot of the risks, if you will. But eventually, any market that's a sustainable power grid in the world, frankly, could move to a nodal market as long as it has reliable power. Now, with that said, there are a number of countries in Africa, Asia, et cetera, where there isn't reliable power, in which case deregulated markets really don't make sense. You have to get to a reliable power basis. That's kind of the premise behind getting to either a zonal or a nodal deregulated market.
Raj, thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.